was able to come today, as well as the resources, the
whole
resource
thing.
tables that we have. The purpose of this event is to try to get information out to loved ones who have individuals that's incarcerated.
Yes.
That's hopefully be being released soon, and to also answer some questions and concerns for our panelists from different agencies that might can assist with ways that we can assist, individuals that's in prison. I'm gonna actually give the mic over to Corey Priest at this time. He's gonna be the one that's gonna be delegating the panelists at this time.
That's my foot.
Thank you all for being here. Like Redville just reiterated that this event is What's Next. It's a series. It's a series that's going to be held throughout the state every quarter. The premise is we want to target families of those who are incarcerated, soon to be released, and the ones who are home now. In the world of reentry, we focus on the individual coming home, and kind of forget about the families or the friends or the neighbors who are going to host these individuals out. So the premise of this What's Next series is to target families and filter resources into these families to help and support these individuals coming home. My panelists today include Mr. Orlando. Spent many years inside the federal system. He's been home now and thriving and building and doing what's necessary to stay home. He's been a great person, friend, and individual that I can tap into for information, knowledge, and just the experience of spending so much time in jail. Brad Owens, I want to call him the reentry guru, one of the reentry gurus in our state. Jessica Klein, who is the supervisor of the probation reentry piece. So the folks she supervised are probation officers from that work at that work with the Achievement Center, and that's the gold standard in reentry in our state. And Dr. Lakeisha Josie, she's phenomenal. The wealth of information dealing with family therapy, mental health, and substance abuse. So I think this panelist here can answer questions that families have and can give a great wealth of knowledge and information to you all. And then last but not least, me, I work for the Department of Justice. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist for the Department of Justice, the first of its kind in the country that they can hire someone who was formerly incarcerated. So I take great ownership in that, and I'm just trailblazing for the folks who are behind me. And that's it. So I'm gonna go through and ask the panelists one question, and then we're gonna go and have a Q&A afterwards. One other thing, if you guys didn't sign in, please sign in. And then I have a questionnaire at the end of our session for you guys to fill out. So first I wanna ask Orlando what it was like to come home. What are the barriers from the time he stepped foot out of incarceration to the community, and how has he overcame them?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just finished serving 23 straight years in federal prison. I was released July 19th of 2018. I just finished my first year home, and trust me, it feels good. When I came home, I was nervous. I had minimum money, no housing, minimum support. But I was determined after those 23 years to stay on the straight path. I've spent over 34 years of my entire life in federal prison. I'm 56 years old. I have more time in prison as an adult than I have on the street as an adult. And that's sad to say. But we can't change the past. You can only work on the future. For me, I was determined from day one to find whatever resources was out there, to talk to anybody I had to talk to go any place, because failure was not an option for me. Now, I must say that I'm extremely blessed because I work for the Department of Social Services. And I went through a reentry program which changed my life. It's called Project New Start. And without Project New Start, I really don't know where I would be. Now, you'll find out that there are various different reentry programs. Each one has their own little twist. But at the end of the day, they have one thing in common: to help you succeed. Now, the key to that is, do you want to succeed? Because that's that old saying goes, I can take a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. I was thirsty. So I went through various things. I went through the Achievement Center where I met Mr. Corey for the first time. And we sat there and he shared his life experiences with me and he helped me in many ways. And I'm thankful for this brother because I look up to him. Because when I look at him being home for the amount of time and everything that he's achieved, I knew that there was a possibility for me to have some success. Reentry is strong because you have a lot of young men and young women come home from prison and they don't have strong support systems. They don't know what they're going to do. With me, housing, I was homeless. Luckily, I was in a halfway house for a great period of time. And that's still one of the barriers for a lot of men and women coming home with housing. And we have to do a better job of opening doors and creating different things to give these people housing. Because we always talk about the crime rate. But the question is, what are we doing to help those who come home? They need help. Now in life, we all need some form of help. Whether you're trying to put somebody through school, whether we're trying to help somebody with bills, whether we're trying to help somebody with understanding of life, we all navigate. But when you're coming home, when you're a street kid, when you don't know nothing but selling drugs and carrying guns, your options are limited, so you think. And if you're not given the opportunities, not given the chances, not having doors open to help you, usually you resort back to what you know best because you go in survival mode.
Yeah, talk about it, man.
And if we don't extend that olive branch for these people, if we don't create jobs, opportunities, give them a hope, then we doomed. Now, I was going to be damned if I was going to be doomed. I'm not going to keep it real. But everybody doesn't think like me. So I'm hoping that you understand the importance of forgiveness and giving people opportunities. And let me say this to you. Coming home from doing a long stretch of time, it isn't easy. It messes with your mental. And people don't think about that. So you have to be understanding to your family members. Now, they got to be respectful to you too. But taking account of the trials and tribulations they've experienced, because I experienced some crazy stuff in 23 years in prison. But I'm thankful that my mental was strong. I'm thankful for my loved ones being there for me. I'm thankful for the programs of reentry. I'm thankful for a man named Ray Fitzgerald in West Southall who had the wherewithal to give me an opportunity and a chance. Because without them, I don't know where I would be right now. And now I'm in a reentry program trying to help young men and young women come home. Because I understand what they've been through. I understand what their families go through, the struggles with kids trying to reconnect with their parents. That's a struggle within itself. Your loved ones, your parents, your fathers, your aunts, it's a struggle. But if you put the work in, if you have forgiveness and the willingness to help, then a change can be made. So for me, I thank reentry because I'm a success story. But I don't want to be the only success story. I want everybody to come home to be a success story. And that's what it's about.
Thanks, Orlando. I'm going to shoot it over to Dr. Josie. So Orlando mentioned emotional toll. Can you explain or talk about the emotional strain families have when an individual leaves, spend time in prison, then come back?
I feel like I need to know close to you, so I'm gonna put that down. I gesture when I talk. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Lakeisha Dozy. I'm here representing your center, LLC, and also Phoenix Center for Health and Wellness. I wanted to be a part of this panel because I think one of the things that we have to recognize is that people go through a tremendous transition, just as you mentioned. You talked about the reconnecting and the being away from your family and then coming back and trying to reconnect with family members. One of the things that we have to recognize is that people experience a tremendous amount of loss. It's traumatic, right? To have someone leave and then to have someone come back. And then when they come back, you're happy to see them, but you might also be angry that they were away, right? And that can be really hard for kids because they miss their loved one, and they don't want to be mad because they feel like it's not okay to be mad at this person, maybe a parent, an aunt, or an uncle that's been away. And then, we're trying to understand why kids are getting in trouble in school, why, people are acting out at work or, being angry or frustrated and upset. And so part of what we do in our organization, and part of the reason that we wanted to be here just in general is just to talk about that transition, recognizing the trauma that occurs when someone leaves, and even when somebody comes home. There's a grief reaction, right? We're upset, and even when we're happy to see people come home, we're mourning a loss of time, right? You talked about how much time you were away, and having more time being incarcerated than actually being out. And there's got to be a tremendous sadness and anger and a frustration and a feeling that this was just really unfair that this happened to you in this way. And so what we really want to do is support people to work through those thoughts, work through those emotions, because feelings are feelings. We can't control that we have them, but we can help people work through what to do when we have them. There's ways to react, there's ways to act, and there's ways to cope. And we know that sometimes people cope in a way that maybe isn't so healthy, and that can be drugs, that can be alcohol, that can be food, that can be sex, that can be shopping, that's TV, that's sitting on the couch and not going anywhere because it's too hard to get out in the world. And so really what we want to do, and what part of why we feel like it's so important to be part of activities like this, is really to provide support to people coming home and to provide support to families, because as you mentioned, it's not just the individual that goes in and the individual that comes out, but there's a whole family system that needs support.
Thank you, Doc. And so many times, right? Many times when folks come home from incarceration, the expectation conversation never happens. What I mean is, the individual come home to move with a loved one. The conversation around how much money you have to pay every time you get paid doesn't happen. The conversation around, do I do the dishes every night when I come home from work? That conversation never happens. Can I use your car? But do you have license? That conversation never happens. And so the expectations of an individual coming home and the family member of the host, it doesn't happen. So the individual thinks the family or the person is on some BS. They might leave the house and not come back and then go to somewhere where it's unhealthy, find themselves in situations where they might go back because they're not in a safe and stable environment. And it causes strain on relationships. So I think for the family members in here and your loved one is coming home soon, those conversations are uncomfortable, but they have to happen. It's imperative that those conversations happen for the wellness of both parties, in particular the one that's coming home, right? And so I have another panelist, Ms. Janice Brown, who's a parent of an individual who went in and came back. And I know Ms. Brown has dealt with some headaches, some great moments, some not so great moments. But I do want you to kind of explain the situation when your loved one left, and now it's time for that person to come home, and talk about that experience, if you don't mind.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, good. Well, when my son left, it was heartbreaking. Yeah, it was awful. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. It was devastating for me. I didn't know how they were going to treat him there, and the loss in the household. It just was awful. And I'm really bad at words, so please be patient with me. So once he came home, it was a big deal. But for him, it was different. Things weren't the same. When he went in and he came home, he expected certain things, but it wasn't the same. Times has changed and things like that. And for me, I was just happy to have him home. I really was happy to have him home, but I was also afraid too. Because I just didn't know what was going to happen. I knew he had changed his life, but you have people out here that, I think they were kind of happy he was home, and then some of them weren't. And I thought they would try to do things to have him get out here and do certain things, because the job situation was a little hard at first. Because you have a record, nobody wants to hire you. I don't care how good your manners is and how good you dress or whatever like that. They don't want to hire you. They don't see him like I see him. I know him like I know him, People do make mistakes and go to jail, Everybody's not a criminal that's in jail, but that's the way they look at you. And even as far as going and visiting my son when he was in jail, you have some of the people that work at the prison. They have the meetings like this, and they talk very positive. And we're going to help the inmates, and we're going to work with the families. So when, you go home from the meeting, and I go meet them one-on-one, it's not the same story.
Teach.
You know what I mean? Why is he in there? My son's not in there. What do you do to get it? Well, wait a minute. We was just out the prison. And you sat there and you told a room full of inmates and their families that you're going to do everything you can to help these people, to help them get out, to make sure they have a job, to make sure this and that. But now I come see you on a one-on-one, you're talking a different story. You're putting them down, and my son would never this. It was awful. It was awful, and it was no way to turn. And when people at the prison, some of the counselors or whatever, some feel as though they'll never be rehabilitated, and it was just awful, and you felt very much alone. You felt it was nowhere to turn, to come talk to people like yourselves and things like that. No support, or anything. So, by the grace of God, we just prayed, and you had a couple people in there that looked through the faults that people have or made mistake, and they helped, and they had different programs. And my son went through every program they had 2 and 3 times. And then, the next thing you know, one of the counselors said, well, listen, the lights at the end of the tunnel is getting ready to shine for him. But that was after 11 and a half years. You know what I mean? After 11 and a half years and stuff. And, some of the stuff they have you locked up for, you can't even prove. I have another son that's in there. Because he was a bad child, now he's in there for life. Something they can never prove. Life. And it's awful. They talk to you like you're a dog. You got to come down there an hour early so you could just get in there, because if you're 2 seconds late, you're not going to be. I don't care how far you have to drive. So, but anyway, I'm getting off track, but I was just happy to have him home, like I said, but I was afraid because I wanted him to have work. He's a good person, he's a pillar to the community, and I just wanted them to give him a chance, and like I said, I was happy, and I just pray hard, cry, laugh, but that's what you do. That's what you do, But we just got to keep strong and keep your faith up and everything like that, because they have groups now, people to help us and things like that. Don't just let us fall by the wayside with our family members that's in there like that, because it's not fair. And because they're in there don't mean that they're a bad person. They just made a mistake, So thank you, everybody, for listening.
Did a phenomenal job. Phenomenal. So before I get to the reentry piece and probation, I do want you guys to look around the room and see the resources that are around the room. Resources that really, really help families families of those who are incarcerated, families in particular, but those who are incarcerated is what we're here for. And so as you guys, we disperse, please go to the tables. Delmarva Power has an awesome program that I think everyone need to hear about, that I don't think enough people know about. So please go to Delmarva Power, the Apex Project for the expungement and pardons. The governor just signed a adult expungement bill, so I'm sure Dominic has a lot of information about that to help our families out. Food Bank of Delaware, DHSS, and CPSU, by Monty Consulting, Avante Dorsey, and the Your Center. So please check them out. Also, I do have a suggestion box. If y'all want some suggestions and we don't get to it, put it in the box in a survey to fill out afterwards. So, a lot of pizza. Thank you, Allison. That's my role partner. So Brad. No. I'm gonna go to Jess. Jess, can you explain the role of probation and parole in the reentry process?
What are you doing?
And any new initiatives you guys are rolling out in terms of probation and its probationers.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jessica Klein. I'm at the Cherry Lane Probation Office, which services most of Wilmington and some of the greater Newcastle County area. I've been with reentry for about 10 years now. I've been with probation for 22. We're doing a lot. One of our main goals, Corey asked me this, is what are we here for? And this may surprise a lot of people in the room, but we're here to make sure that people don't go back. It truly is our goal. And what we do with reentry is we hunt down and beg and borrow and steal for services and assistance and anything to reduce barriers to try to prevent people from going back to incarceration. It's a struggle, and we've heard a lot of the struggles. There aren't that many jobs. With low unemployment, it is hard to get hired with a criminal background because there's other people that may not have one that are just as qualified. So we're working on a lot of initiatives to try to increase jobs, increase affordable housing. Housing is huge for most people that have needed it. It is so hard to find housing. And we pull every string possible when we know people are coming out homeless. Our goal is to not release anybody to homelessness. I know it's a lofty goal. We're going to try our best, but that is a goal of ours over the next couple of years, is to try to dramatically reduce the number of people released as homeless. And one of the big pieces of that is family reunification. I think as probation, as in prisons and corrections, we miss that whole piece because we hear a lot. We go into the facilities every month and talk to some of the inmates, and we volunteer. We'll go talk to your family. A lot of family doesn't want them back. They don't want probation in the house. We said, we'll go talk to them. We'll explain to them what it is and have that expectation conversation and try to get that conversation going. No one has taken us up on that yet, but it is out there. We prefer to provide the real information and the real expectations to the family and the returning citizen, as opposed to what they often hear on the street or some misperceptions about what it's like to have someone reside in your house that is on probation. We have some in-reach coordinators. We have them in each county right now, and they're probation officers, and they're assigned to basically help people coming out of prison. We target the inmates that have been in for at least a year, but we do help whoever needs it. But our target population is inmates serving a year or more, and we really try to do a lot of barrier reduction prior to them getting out. So hopefully they at least have a place to stay. They know who their probation officer is. Hopefully, if possible, they've reconnected with their family. And we have a wealth of resources. Just at our probation office alone, one of the resources we have is the CPSU, which Ms. Watson is here from there. She's a great resource for reentry through Health and Social Services. We help individuals apply for Medicaid, food stamps. We can set them up with Department of Labor, try to set them up with education or job training opportunities. So, and like Corey also said, in addition to some of our in-reach that we do in the institutions for people getting ready to come out, I do supervise the reentry court officers, which help, that's mainly targeted towards the population in the city of Wilmington. And most of the guys in the reentry court are younger, probably. Most of them are between probably 18 and 26 or 27. So they're a little different, unique kind of needs for the younger population. So we have some structures in place where they can go to the Achievement Center and get some employment help, some cognitive behavioral therapy, and they see their judge regularly to try to kind of keep them on track. We tighten things up a little bit on them and then ease the restrictions as we see that they're doing well. So our main goal is to empower our returning citizens to take charge of their own reentry so they don't go back.
Thanks, Jess. So my last panelist is Wes Southpaw. He's a chief administrator for DHSS. And DHSS, they're doing a lot of stuff in the state of Delaware in terms of reentry, in terms of helping families out. Just anybody. I wouldn't be somebody with no family. They just help everybody out. So I think Wes, I just want to stand up.
No, I'm good. I have my voice projects. Can anyone not hear me? If you couldn't hear me, again, my name is Wes Salva. Now, I am one of the chief administrators for the Division of Social Services with the Department of Health and Social Services. One of the things I'm intimately involved with is called a group of CESU. And it's just basically Community Partner Support Unit. Some folks in the city and the state might have heard of it, and we do a litany of different things. What we're here for is to be that support, that conduit, that bridge. And many times, or more times than not, in a lot of environments, folks might have turned left when they could have turned right. Things might have happened, life might have happened. And there's so many doors that are shut in front of them. If you continue to shut doors and take away opportunity, take away hope. We don't give you hope, but we'll work with you, whatever that you is. So if you're a Delawarean, if you're receiving any of our services, generally you're receiving Medicaid, food benefits, purchase of care, which is child care, or part of a fatherhood program, or recently been released from the federal reentry or participating in any reentry programs, or No Quarry or Dan or anyone, we don't turn anyone away. We try to find an opportunity for you. Those opportunities will go with connecting you to housing, connecting you to services, benefits that you're entitled to, helping you find a job. For those of you who bump into me on the street or talk to me, I got bad jokes. But beyond that, if you want something or need something, we'll find a way to get there. There's no no. We might not be able to do it the way you say, but there's no no. We have maybe in excess of 250 community partners in the state of Delaware. That's outside the body of the Division of Social Services or even the umbrella of the Department of Health and Social Services. And each one of those partners have their particular niche that they do something. So sometimes when you look at state government, you might fall between the cracks of what you're eligible for what time, or until you're eligible for something else at a different time. There are community partners that do that. We try to be that bridge to them, or let you know that opportunity is out there. If you're there and you say, hey, I need a job, and here's where I am, well, it's all right, let's try to find out how to get there. Now, getting to the job piece, especially with the reentry, a lot of times there are not a lot of employers out there who are second chance employers. But we'll go to that particular employer and say, hey, listen, if you take a chance with this young man or this young lady, here's what we'll do. And what we'll do, we'll subsidize that pay up to 3 months. So you're going to an employer and say, listen, take a chance. We'll case manage them, working with you like your life coach, you got your own little personal life coach. And we'll help you mitigate any of the obstacles in front of you. We can't remove every barrier, but we can help you get through that. But the employer is in a win-win situation. The employer has an opportunity to somebody who's willing to work, a group behind them supporting them, will help mitigate or support them. And we're paying their salary, who we bring to them for the next 3 months, up to $13 an hour. To do that, to date this year, we've gotten we've gotten 129 adults jobs in the state of Delaware. We've got more than 40 youth jobs in the state of Delaware. Last year, we got 121 the entire year. We just had a CDL program run a couple weeks ago. 2 folks have graduated. Hopefully, one has already been offered jobs. We take someone who might be receiving our services, and then we get a job maybe $50,000. And money's not everything, but it makes a whole lot of other things easier. So now, in the next couple of weeks, we have 11 folks participating in the next CDL training program. Some are coming out of Trevor Ranch, or some through the pilot program. Some just heard about it on the street. Some will get jobs in large companies. We have UPS who called us up. Now think about it. UPS has called up and said, listen, we need 25 CDL drivers. You have them. Like, yeah, we got a bunch of CDL drivers in the world. Really? But no, but here's what we're going to do. And that's why we started doing that. Now, all 11 might not get hired at UPS, but, Snyder's hired one, Pepsi's asking for, different other companies. And the same thing applies. Those companies take a chance with our folks after they graduate with the CDL license. We'll say, listen, we'll subsidize their pay up to $13 an hour for 3 months. And since transportation a lot of times is a barrier here, but for those of you who know, we'll take them to the job and bring them back. If you're around Rocky Square at night, around 10 o'clock at night, there's a big yellow bus taking 60 Delawareans to UPS in Philadelphia at 10 o'clock at night. At 2 or 3 in the morning, they're bringing them back. So we don't have a no yet. We haven't found a no yet. That's what we do.
Good stuff, bro. So to tie this all in, I'm gonna hand it to Brad Owens, who's one of the reentry gurus in the state. To tie everything in, Brad, in terms of a person going inside to their time inside, then outside to reentry. I don't know if you can scream like Wes.
I cannot scream like Wes. So that's a pretty broad topic.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. So I'll speak to you from a perspective of someone who goes inside of a prison. All right, I got a name on my list, and this name is a person who is getting out within the next 9 months, 6 to 9 months, maybe sooner. Tends to be sooner. I don't know this person. I can look up his information on the electronic health record and find out a little bit about him. But I don't know this guy, right? I go into a unit and I sit down and I say, hey, Mr. Priest, I see you're getting out in 3 months. And I'm here to ask you some questions about what you might need when you get out. All right, does that sound good with you? He says, yeah. All right. So I asked him a little about, where do you plan to go? I'm going to live with my mom. All right. That's good. Sounds good, right? But me as a worker, if you ever worked in a prison or been in a prison, things move pretty quickly. I got to make this interview, it's got to go quick because there's medical teams in there, there's mental health teams in there, there's counts, there's child times, there's all things going on. So I got a limited time with this individual. And he says, I'm going to live with mom. I take his word for it. All right, cool. You're going to live with mom. Housing, check. All right, what else you might need? You taking medications? Do you need these medications when you get out? Yeah, I think so, but I know where to get them. Okay, are you sure? Yeah, I know how to do that. Okay. All right, well, what about a trade? You ever worked? You ever need, what kind of jobs are you interested in? Well, I would like to be a driver. I'd like to get my CDLs. Okay, well, there's a program. This guy over DHSS named West Southall. He does a program. You should look that up when you get out. In fact, here's a brochure. Okay, cool. All right, and then someone's knocking on the door behind me. You gotta get out, and I'm speeding this interview up. Okay, I gotta go. And if there are things he might need, and I work for Connections, all right, and we have a reentry program with Connections, and we are contracted with the state to meet folks who are getting out, to try to assess their needs and connect them to services in the community. But this is all self-report. If a guy tells me he's going to live with his mom, I take his word for it. But for the folks in this audience who are the moms, who are the people who are on the other end of that, I, as the employee, as the guy interviewing the inmate, I don't necessarily know what mom thinks, right? I don't necessarily know what mom needs. Hell, I don't even know if mom's real. I'm just taking this guy's word for it. She might be real, but I think mom has expectations, as Corey said. Mom might have needs too, that I don't know about. And I might be able to help mom. In fact, we probably can. And I know Wes, and I know Corey, and I know all the people in the room who do this, and I could help mom if I knew what mom's needs were. And I think part of this is to try to bridge that gap between, the parents and the families and the community who are receiving these men and women coming home from prison. And I remember I've been through tons of school and whatnot, and then, but one person said to me while I was in school that I'll try to care for a second. So, what does mom need? What does mom need? What can mom tell me what she needs? What does she expect? How do I bridge the expectations, right? How do I need to know, I need to hear mom's voice, right? I need to know what the expectations are. There's tons of people in these prisons doing this work. And there's tons of good people doing this work too. Like myself and like Corey, but if we don't hear your voice, if we don't hear those things you need, then we can't possibly meet those needs. We don't necessarily know what you might need coming home. I think that's important. And I think it's important for family members to understand who's providing the services in the prison, who those people are, and to hold them accountable for these services. Hey, you're a counselor, you're working in the prison, you're interacting with my son. How can I connect with you? How can I explain to you what I might need when this individual is coming home? And I think that's important, and we can start to answer these questions for you, and I'd be happy to answer those here. I'm sorry I got a little sidetracked. I had one of those brain fart moments. It happens. But I will say that, prison is it's an intimidating place. It's an intimidating place for the people who are serving time. It's an intimidating place for the people who work there. But there are tons of really good people who work there who want to do good work. But sometimes we don't know. We don't necessarily know what the needs of the community are, or we don't know how to necessarily connect you to those if we can't hear your voice. So I really applaud Corey's efforts to try to bridge that gap, to give the families an opportunity to say, hey, we have some expectations too, and how can we relay those? How can we relay those to people who might know the answers, and not just my son who's behind bars, who has good aspirations, who wants to do really good, but might not understand all the barriers that he might hit when he gets out of prison. And so, I really do encourage you all to understand who is inside the prisons, who is doing this work, and how to be able to connect with them to express what you might need for them when they get home. And you have some people in this room who can do that for you. So for the family members in the room, I know there's a lot of people out here who work for the organizations that do this work, and I commend you for coming too. But for the families of individuals who are incarcerated, ask us questions. Tell us what your expectations are and hold people accountable to those. I'm big on the integrity piece. Do what you say you're going to do. And if we can all sort of live by that, I think we'll be okay. But check your expectations of the people doing the work too. They're normal people. I'm a normal guy, and I don't know all the answers, and I can't begin to meet all these expectations if I don't know them. So don't be necessarily unfair to those people who are working in the prisons, or expect them to have all the answers, or to give you a CDL and a college degree and a house and all these things. Don't necessarily just expect those things without really understanding. These are just normal people. I'm trying to do a good job, and so be fair, be understanding, but communicate. Don't sit on a computer and complain about what services aren't being done in the prison without really knowing who's in there, or at least talking to them first. Because there's a place for to hold people accountable, again, social media or wherever. Hold them accountable if they're not doing what they say they're doing. That's one thing. But if you don't make an attempt to connect with the service providers inside of the prison, that's not necessary for you either. We're people. And most of the people, I promise you, most of the people are trying to do good, and they come from a genuine place. So I'll leave you with that broad topic.
So what I'm going to do is open it up to the floor. Questions for our panelists. Brother Deborah.